Hello, welcome to The Analyst at the Ashes with just me, Simon Hughes, today. Simon Mann, still not well, stayed away from the ground today, actually probably quite wisely because it wasn't a good day for England. They conceded 45 extra runs for the last 2 wickets, Australian 2 wickets, and then in the heat of the day, when they really needed to keep Australia out there toiling away, they lost 8 wickets for 213, and really it was only Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer towards the end of the day that gave them any sort of respectability with the score. As a result, the Betfair odds not making good reading. At the start of the day, Australia's 68% chance of winning when they were 320 odd for 8. By the time they increased their first innings to 371, and then England were 50 odd for 3, those odds, Betfair odds, have gone up to 78% Australia and only 19 England. And I'm afraid by the end of the day, with England reeling at 213 for 8, still 158 runs behind, it's now 85% Australia and only 12% England. And the likelihood of Australia retaining the Ashes is now 98%. So looking very gloomy from an England point of view. I think, although it is a sad story, and it's a story of England wilting in the heat, both in terms of temperature and also the heat of the Australian bowlers, I think it's worth just thinking about the quality of the Australian bowlers as well, actually, which was absolutely outstanding almost from ball one. I mean, Mitchell Starc, we know how good he is at taking early wickets. He didn't actually do that today, but he was at the batsman straight away. And Pat Cummins, having not played since July, was really impressive. He was right on the spot from ball one. His consistency of line and length with the odd nasty bouncer was absolutely brilliant. And he earned the 2 big wickets, or the early wicket of Zach Crawley, who got a really good ball which bounced and left him, and he had to play it. It wasn't short enough to leave from a length point of view, and it was line rise around off stump, so he had to play it and got that edge through to Alex Carey. And then the other key wicket that Cummins took, which was really clever, was bowling to Joe Root, bowling a few back of that length deliveries and 1 or 2 short ones as well, getting Root just a little back on his heels, if you like, and then the slightly fuller one, which Root was a little bit slow getting out to and just got a little edge. It was a great piece of bowling, not just that delivery, but generally the way he meticulously examined Root's technique, backed up of course by Scott Boland at the other end, and also having the ingenuity Cummins to bring on Nathan Lyon just before lunch. And I'm afraid to say a witless shot from Ollie Pope, just sort of chipping a lazy catch to mid-wicket, 3rd ball that Nathan Lyon bowled. And then soon after that, Duckett, perhaps a slightly crooked defensive shot, the ball, newish ball, gripping on the grass and just turning enough to be his little prod, but it wasn't a particularly good defensive shot, and he was bowled. So 2 wickets for Lyon in that over, taking him past Glenn McGrath as Australia's 2nd leading wicket taker with 564 wickets. So a great moment for Nathan Lyon, and a very sad moment for England with 50 odd for 3. Brooke and Root did sort of rebuild the situation a bit until Root had that excellent piece of bowling from Cummins that he succumbed to. Brooke, played purposefully without, going mad. I think he was more restrained today, and he played a sort of, a solid innings actually. 45 from 60 odd balls. I thought he was looking pretty good. He did one piece of outrageousness, came down the wicket and backed away slightly and hit. I think it was Boland over extra cover for 6, an amazing shot. But otherwise, actually, he played within himself, and I thought he played fine until Cameron Green found a bit of extra movement off this pitch with an early delivery and got Brooke to nick one through to the keeper. So, it was a real exhibition of how to bowl on a basically flat pitch with just a tiny bit of seam movement, but nothing else for the bowlers, and obviously severe heat, 40 degrees. I went up to the far end at the Adelaide Oval on the hill there with all the Barmy Army, and I must say it was absolutely like an oven. It was scorchio. But the Australians dealt with that manfully, as you'd have thought they would, and England just sort of slowly succumbed to the pressure. It was really quite sad to see. Now, I mentioned that TNT, of course, have the exclusive rights to this series in the UK, and you can get to TNT by going to EE, Virgin Media or Sky. Also, you can get TNT on Discovery Plus as well with a subscription. One of their pundits today was Justin Langer, the fantastic opening bat for Australia for many years. And also a very good coach actually as well. He was coaching Steve Smith when he was young. He's coached all around the world, so he really is a great eye for batting technique. And I asked him what he thought about England's batting in this series so far.
I think that the concept of being ultra aggressive is critically important. All the best players in the world, all the best teams in the world, they have a positive mindset. They're trying to put pressure back onto the opposition bowler. That's a given for the best players. But with that, you must marry together good batting technique. And to me, good batting technique is particularly the lower half of your body and moving your feet towards the ball. And to be completely honest, what I've seen in England this series, and we're seeing it again here in Adelaide, is a lack of front foot movement towards the line of the ball. Joe Root was brilliant in Brisbane, and that's why he scored 100, and that's why he's the master of the game. And Ben Stokes also moves his right foot towards the line of the ball. But a lot of the other English batters, their foot is moving only a couple of inches outside the crease. And in Australia particularly, it's very, very hard to get away with that because of the extra bounce. To be fair, Australia in this test on a very flat wicket in this first innings, their length has been elite. But even when the best bowlers are bowling at that elite length, you must be able to commit on the front or the back foot. I've been seeing too many England batters this series play from the crease. Play from the crease in Australia, your chances of success are very limited.
And actually, just to give the Australian bowlers credit, I mean today, whereas the England bowlers, their lengths were very variable, I've been very impressed with. I mean, Cummins has come back from being quite a long layoff, and he's absolutely spot on, isn't he? And you complimented him on his bouncers as well later on. He's got that kind of lovely combination of at you all the time. And I thought he just caught Root maybe a little slow to come forward. He got the best player out with a fantastic ball, and Crawley as well.
Remember, Cummins has got Root out 12 times more than any other bowler in Joe Root's career. So he's obviously scrambled. I think it's probably more to do with his length. But you're right, I think Australia's strategy has been brilliant. Not only have they had a great strategy, for example, Smith 3 men back from day one of the series. They've obviously seen something, and yet James Smith keeps playing the hook shot.
Compulsive.
Yeah, and they've recognised that, and they've been able to execute it beautifully. So if I was to sum up this test match, this is the flattest wicket England are going to see this series. Yesterday on day one, Cast started full short. Australia capitalised. Josh Tongue bowled well in his first spell, and then he was too erratic with his lengths. Archer was brilliant on day one particularly, and then you got Will Jacks, the part-time spinner. He was getting driven. They were full tosses or short, and leaked. He was going at nearly 6 runs and over, just over 5 runs and over. So there's no pressure, whereas Australia have kept England under pressure the whole time, and that's why they're so on top of this test match.
Okay, so interesting to hear from Justin Langer there. Just a couple of other thoughts before we go tonight. A short podcast today, but Ollie Pope, his position in the England team must be now very, very fragile. He's only averaging around 18 against Australia. He hasn't ever made a 50 in a test match against Australia. I think he's played 8 tests against them. And the number 3 position is so important to give you that sort of solidity and security, really, and he just doesn't offer that at the moment. So he's probably got one more innings to save his test career, and then it's a question of who will bat at number 3 if he doesn't get a big score in England's second innings. Who will bat at number 3? Would it be Root? Would it be Jacob Bethel? Could it be Ben Stokes if England bat first? I mean, he really got stuck in today, batted for over 4 hours for his 45 not out, perhaps almost a bit too defensive in a way, but obviously making a point. So that was one talking point. Ollie Pope definitely jeopardising his test career, and I mean many people thinking he perhaps shouldn't even played in this test match. And the other talking point, big talking point, was the technology, which again failed miserably when tested. So a couple of incidents. Jamie Smith, this is after yesterday of course, when Alex Carey kind of basically confessed that he got an edge yesterday, but the audio and video sort of technology didn't really match up, so the umpire wasn't sure about being able to to give that decision. And today, the same kind of thing happened. Jamie Smith gets a very good bouncer from Pat Cummins, who, I mean, must say, not only with his line and length and relentlessness, but does bowl this really awkward bouncer which gets up about helmet high, and you have to decide whether to try and duck. It's not easy to duck, or whether to fend it off, or maybe to have a pull, but you know, the pull shot is risky. So Smith, having played a few pull shots, tried to fend it off, and looked as if it glanced off his glove and then onto his helmet and was caught at slip. The technology couldn't determine whether there was a glove or not, and I heard the third umpire in my ear, Chris Gaffney, saying, well, it doesn't look to me like it hit the gloves. And yet the players out in the middle, who I could also hear, were saying, well, it actually definitely came off his glove. And there was more dispute about whether the catch carried to Usman Khawaja at slip. So, you know, the technology was already proving to be pretty flawed. And then later on, Smith goes for another slightly wild pull shot and gets what appeared to be a bottom edge, a toe end, through to the slip cordon, a catch that was pretty low. I think it carried, and then the technology again had to be sort of manipulated to actually give the correct answer. And I could hear the Aussie players on the field going, this is ludicrous, this is madness, this is the worst technology in the world, and all that. So it really is substandard and inadequate at the moment that we have technology that doesn't work very well. One of the problems, I think, is that they calibrate it by clapping out in the middle, and clapping is not a very precise way of matching audio and video. It will be more effective to have some kind of digital way of measuring it to get that link up, that sync exactly precise. So that's something for the various cricket boards and probably the ICC to work on in the next few months, because it does make the game look silly when there is inordinate delays trying to get these decisions right, which often aren't right. So a frustrating day from that point of view. Jofra Archer batted pretty well towards the end of the day and got his 20 odd not out. He's put on nearly 50 with Ben Stokes. So there is hope that England could creep up to perhaps 260, even 275, and concede only a lead of 100, which is obviously not ideal, but it could be manageable. I'm trying to be optimistic here. I don't feel it in my heart, but my head is saying, you know, if they get another 70 runs and get to within 280, 290, then bowl brilliantly and bowl Australia out, because there's just that little bit of help in the pitch, and it's not going to be quite so hot tomorrow. So, you know, if they could somehow get 70 more runs and then bowl Australia out for 150, 160, 180 even, and chase 250, then it still could be game on. But it's a slim hope. England's Ashes hopes are hanging by a thread tonight at the Adelaide Oval, which is still about 37 degrees. So I think I'm going to say good night to you and go and have a long drink sitting outside in those balmy temperatures. Sorry to bring you this kind of rather depressing news from the Adelaide Oval, but I must say Australia today have been highly impressive. Thanks for listening. Speak to you tomorrow.